iṣẹ́ sì ti fẹ́ẹ̀ parí pẹ̀lú lórí 100 míì jákèjádò ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́. Ààbò tó dájú òun ohun amáyédẹrùn ní ìṣokùnfà ìdásílẹ̀ iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá láwùjọ. Òun náà nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ fi wà nípò kẹta nínú àwọn ìpínlẹ̀ tí ń pawó wọlé jùlọ lábẹ́lé nílẹ̀ wa. Ọ̀pọ̀ ọ̀dọ́ ló ti láǹfààní ẹ̀kọ́ṣẹ́ iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ lọ́nà ti gbàlódé táṣeyọrí yóò sì jẹ́ kó ń jẹ́ sùn wá bọ̀ láìpẹ́ nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́. Àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ àtòṣìṣẹ́ fẹ̀yìntì ń gbowó wọn lásìkò, pápá àṣírí Adámàsìngbà àtàwọn inú ojú pópó tí ń sòrú dọ̀sán kọ́. Àwọn ìlú ti sọ pásì ìwádùn níṣèjọba yìí fi ń mọ rírì gbogbo àwọn aláṣẹ. Gómìnà Ṣèyí Mákindé ló ń sọ fún wa pé pẹ̀lú ìṣọ̀kan wa oòrùn tó kù lókè yìí ó táṣọ ọgbẹ.
Iléeṣẹ́ ètò ìròyìn àṣà ohun ìrìn àjò afẹ́ tìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ló ń kéde.
Your day has gotten a lot better. You can stand a chance of winning amazing prizes every month on Aloore Radio. How to participate? Follow us on our Facebook page on Aloore Radio. Share our program links on all your social media platforms. The person with the highest shared links win our amazing monthly prizes. Share, listen to Aloore Radio, the voice of Oyo State. Share, listen to Aloore Radio on Facebook. Aloore Radio, the voice of Oyo State.
Jade, oh yeah now. Sọ̀rọ̀ ó ti pẹ́ tí mo ti ń tó sí ẹ̀ ò ṣáde. Ọjọ́ ń lọ, ọ̀sẹ̀ tó lọ mo pé tá a ti ṣáde. I dey beg you say make you marry me, you tell me say you no ready o dẹjọ́. Ọmọge dákun gbọ́ tèmi, jọ̀wọ́ má jẹ́ kí n lọ kọ̀mítì o. I love you, die. I need you, die. Baby, me job. Please come be my wife. Mommy, me rate your mom. Marry me, oh baby. Baba, me rate your mom. You know I love you. Omoge wa fe me. Mommy, me rate your mom. Marry me, oh baby. Baba, me rate your mom. You know I love you. Omoge wa fe me. I say I need you, girl. You say you need some time. But time in no day, girl. Answer me on time.
All right. Good morning and welcome to another bright day in Ibadan. I'm speaking from the Aloore Radio, transmitting from the GSM studio at the Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism, Oyo State Government Secretariat, Agodi, Ibadan. This is Business and Life series where we talk about business and life generally and how to maneuver. Today we'll be talking, we'll be having a topic called raising capital. Raising capital in business, most especially because of course a lot of times capital is in the direction of business. Now I'll start by asking, what is capital? Money is not the only capital, it's not the only form of capital actually, because a lot of times when you mention the word capital when it comes to business, everybody's ears go in the direction of money. Money is not the only capital. Capital is actually capacity, your ability, and what you can muzzle up and how you can manage things, what you can put forward at any point in time. That is what is referred to as capital, and that's why you have states that have capitals. It's the capacity you can pull together. That is the capital you can raise, because sometimes your capital in certain situations will not be cash, will not be money. And so I'll looking at the overview of what it means to raise capital. We're going to be looking at the different options we have to be able to raise capital in business. A lot of times you require money, sometimes you don't require money, you require other forms of capital injection into business. So we look comprehensively at the kinds of capital you're going to have in business. So we'll have a short interlude and have a short music thing, and then we'll go to the types of capital and begin to dwell on other things.
You know I love you, ọmọge wá fẹ́ mi. Jẹ́ n gbé ẹ lọlé, mọ́mí mi retí ọmọ. Marry me oh baby, bàbá mi retí ọmọ. You know I love you, ọmọge wá fẹ́ mi. I say I need you, girl. You say you need some time. But time in no day, girl. Answer me on time. I dey beg you, say make you follow me. You tell me, say you no love me, oh the job. Ọmọge dákun ṣe tèmi, jọ̀wọ́ má jẹ́ kí n lọ commit you.
Anyway, this is still Aloore Radio, and you can be on this station on Facebook at Aloore Radio, on YouTube at Aloore Radio, and the website is www.aloreradio.com. Like I said earlier, we're looking at the types of capital. Now, there are about 5 types of capital you can have in any form of business. Now, you have what they call the financial capital, the relationship capital, social capital, natural capital, and venture capital. And there's another one I call the debenture, which is another form of capital. And I'll pick each one after the other and explain concisely. Financial capital, when you are able to put money forward. Now, people invest in businesses, and businesses are invested in by other people. In some instance, it is financial capital, meaning that they bring money. But it is not all the time that people bring money to the table. Quite a good number of times there are other forms of investments that people make. It doesn't have to be money. But today the first point of call is the financial capital, which is money. Now, that is done when we put in cash into a business venture. When you decide to invest money, or you put up adverts to have money being invested in your business. I'll break that up down when we're done in mentioning each one. The social capital is when you achieve the purpose with your social status and capacity. That is, meeting with someone you do not know and being able to convince the person as to what you want to do and how they want to come into the picture. Social capital is also a form of capital. There used to be this loan app back then in those days. I don't know if they still exist. They give you loans based on your popularity on Facebook, and it was a funny thing, but later I sat down to look at it and realized it's actually true. If they see how engaged you are, how active you are on social media, for them it's a capital on its own, because they feel that you can't just leave all those things and run away. But that's social capital, your ability to mingle with people, make friends with people, become acquaintances with people, and be able to get whatever you desire from them. The next one is natural capital, as natural resources, experience, talent, skills, and even lands. Those things are natural. Then venture capital is a type of financing that investors provide to startup companies and small businesses that are believed to have long-term growth and potential. Venture capital is what big organizations do for small organizations in terms of support and commitment. You have big organizations that set up a percentage of what they make to be able to support smaller businesses. And then you have the debenture, which is a type of bond or other debt instrument that is unsecured by collateral. Since debenture have no collateral or backing, they must rely on the creditworthiness and reputation of the issuer for support. The kind of things you have with state governments. State government takes they issue bonds and they get monies from outside. In most cases, collateral is not collateralized because they feel that a state is not going to run away. It's going to always be there. Governors can change, but the state will remain. So those are the kind of capital. Now we'll look at how do you develop capacity, because in raising capital, the first and foremost thing is to develop your capacity and ability to be able to raise that finance. And like I said earlier, capital is actually capacity, and before you can be able to raise capital, you need to develop capacity by itself. Now, how do you develop capacity? Now, I start with one: operations. Do you bank your operations, or everything goes out from your pockets? It's very important. You need to be able to develop capacity by showing capacity. Showing capacity means that you have to be able to keep record of the things you do. One of the simplest ways of keeping record of the things you do is with your bank. Now, I know that in Nigeria, banks can be some form of headache to some people. They debit you for practically everything. You have situations where bank debit you for SMS sent to you to greet you on your birthday. You have situations where bank debit you for all manner of things, card maintenance fees and all of those things. So a lot of people are a bit of skeptical about using the bank. But the truth about the matter is you cannot do without it. Banks are the easiest places to show your capacity development. Now, every transaction you run as a business person, especially a small business person, ensure that it goes through your financial system, which is the bank. You get paid, let it go through your bank. Somebody wants to make a payment to you, let it go through your bank. There are times that people pay you in cash, deposit it in your bank, and you can go back there and withdraw it after, or go into the banking hall and deposit it, and then pick it up with an ATM card after an ATM machine afterwards. It doesn't matter. But just allow every single transaction that goes through your system to go through the banking system. You are going to have situations where you need to do certain things, and the first point of call will be for you to bring your statement of account. That's the easiest place to show capacity. How much has gone through your account in the last 6 months? How much has gone through your account in the last 1 year, in the last 2 years, in the last 3 years? How much transactions have you executed in the last 5 years, to show that you're capable of doing certain things? I know in government settings, for example, when you want to do certain projects, you're expected to bring certain references from your bank that shows that you have capacity to embark on such projects. Now, that is how to develop capacity, by ensuring that you keep a log, you keep a track of the monies that goes in and out of your system. And the easiest way to get it done is by using your banking system. Ensure that money goes through your bank. Your salary earner, for example, your salary goes into your bank account. It's easier in that direction because every money that comes to you every month goes into your bank. So it's easy to be able to use your statement of account to stand. There are some financial organizations where all they require from you, like a collateral, like a guarantee, is your statement of account. Once they look at your statement of account and they think that this person is managing to get along well financially, then they will be able to issue out. So in raising capital, especially if you're looking for financial capital infusion into businesses, your bank is a very key factor as to your capacity building. The second is integrity. We're talking about what do you do to develop capacity when you need to raise capital. The second is integrity. The little you borrow, do you repay? It's very key. There are situations where people borrow money from friends and families, uncles and aunties, and they refuse to pay back. Now, those are the easiest place to nail or to damage your integrity. Your friends, your family are the low-hanging fruit you can hang on anytime you need quick cash. Yes, they are the ones you can call and quickly say, can I raise this much of money? It's when you can't raise from your friends and family that you go outside of your environment to raise money. And so, even if it is from your family member, your father, your mother, anybody, whoever you take any money from in the name of loan, borrow, ensure that you pay. The person asking you or not, it doesn't matter. Just ensure that you pay back. Now, when you develop integrity, when people get to the point of understanding, or people get to the point of conclusion that no matter how much they give you, you will pay. No matter how small, you will pay. No matter how large, you will pay. It makes it easier, a lot easier for you to be able to get more. If you took a loan from your mom, for example, yes, your biological mom, you should be able to get to the point where you say, now I'm paying you back for what I took. Don't say it's my mother, she understands. Or it's my mother, she has more money now, why would she be asking for this little thing? No. It is from all those little things that you develop to friends, you develop to acquaintances, you develop to extended people, that they know that when you take money, you will always pay. Now, when you have that integrity and it's consistent, you can always walk up to people. In the movie Game of Thrones, there is this saying that a Lannister always pays his debt, and the young man always goes around with that mindset. So anytime he wants a favor from you, anytime he wants to borrow something from you, he recounts that statement and say a Lannister always pays his debt, and people believe that at some point. They come to the conclusion that every Lannister always pay their debts. So it's easier for people to borrow the Lannisters because they know they will always pay back. It is easier for people to lend a favor to a Lannister because they know he always pays back. The same thing should be applicable to you. Whatever it is you're doing, always ensure that you keep integrity at reach. That everything you're doing, you know that you always pay back. The third one is relationship. We're talking about how to develop capacity. Relationship. How do you manage relationship? There are people that they've not had any friend for more than 3-4 years. There will always be one quarrel and everybody will break up. It is not right. And I'll give you examples. There are times that you need to be able to reach people, your secondary schoolmates, your university schoolmates, and you can pick up your phone and call on them and say, I need to get this thing done. And they come through. These are relationships. You need to keep in touch with your people, your friends, your schoolmates, everybody. Keep people as close as possible to yourself. When I say as close as possible, does not mean that you pull everybody into your private life, but keep in touch with people. Establish relationship. You go for a party, you meet people you don't know, create a relationship from there. You go for an event, a seminar, conferences, meet people, introduce yourself, create a relationship around, follow up on those relationships afterwards. That is how to develop relationship, because the more people you know, the more chances you have on being able to get anything done here on earth. Even in politics, the more people you know, the more chances you have of being able to get into positions. So keep relationship intact, make friends with people, have integrity, and let your operations be logged. Logged in the sense that let's keep a track on them. You can have ledgers if you are into businesses and it's a small business. You can have ledgers and places where you store your information. If it's a bigger business, of course you are going to have an accounting system or an accountant in the system to ensure that it keeps all track. But whichever one it is, always keep a log of the things you do. I've seen some big businesses quite alright who don't have any form of tracking. They just sell and save money and the rest of it. It's not wise. But it's important that you keep a track of the things you do and how you get around them. Now we talk about capital itself. Would you prefer loans or equity financing? Now those two things are completely different things. Loan is when you take money and you plan to pay back in business. Equity financing is when somebody brings in money to join you in running that particular business. In loans you have to pay back, most times with interest. Equity financing means you don't have to pay back. The person just becomes a member of that business with you and runs that business with you. But each of them are capitals. So in raising capital, you can have a situation, for example, let's take an example of a small business you're just about to start off. You have acquired certain things, but you don't have enough to take off on the rest. Do you intend to take a loan to take off on those rest, or do you intend to do equity financing? Equity financing is when you bring other people into the business and they bring their monies and their resources and other forms of capital into the business for you to run. Now, for debt, you have to pay back. Equity financing means that the person becomes a part of the business. Now, key takeaway from this is that a lot of times, small businesses are not able to access a lot of the funding channels available. That's how the system is. Especially in Nigeria here, the system is in such a manner that small businesses that need finances the more are the ones that don't quite get it. The bigger finances, sometimes banks go to them to beg them to take money. But be as it may, start small, scale your business, develop capacity, show commitment, and you can then launch forward for expansion. And there's a situation, like for example, I have this friend who had a shop somewhere, and there's this young guy who sells roasted plantain with sauce. Fantastic combination. And people will come around there to buy, just by the roadside. And this day, my friend went there to buy, and this guy walked up to her and said, "Madam, I need money. Whatever it is you can help me with." I want to be able to expand this business, even if you want to invest in this. I know this will bring back money, this will bring revenue, this will bring that, this will bring that. Whatever it is, you can help me with. Well, at the moment, she didn't have the money, so she told him, okay, you know what, I'll get back to you on this. I don't have the resources. So this young man kept disturbing and bothering her, but she was hoping that at some point she'll be able to raise money. Then one day she got there and didn't find him there anymore. Made inquiries and they said he's not available anymore. Later she got to realize that, well, the guy eventually got some money from some other place that had this interest that he felt was difficult to pay back. So instead of investing the money into his business, he went to invest it in some form of digital currency. And after a while, the thing didn't do well and crashed. And he's in trouble. He can't pay back his money, so he absconded. He ran from his shop. Now, I told that story. It's a real life scenario of something that happened, to say that sometimes in trying to raise money, don't get too anxious and too greedy. Scale up your business in bits. Look at what you can put in for the time being to move to the next level. If your business requires 10 million, for example, most time do not look at how to raise 10 million. Begin to look at how you can raise ₦1 million to take the business to the next level before you need another money. That's why it is easier for you to push forward one step at a time, instead of having to look for a bulk money that might become too heavy and the business might not be able to pay back right away. Now, in business, you have to also be able to sit down and manage your resources, because these are part of the ways you can put capital together. For example, if you are to do a business and you need, say, 20 million, 10 million naira, for example. I've been using 10 million for a while. You need 10 million. You can look at the business in such a manner that you might not even need to raise 10 million. It might just be a situation where you need somebody who has something that you need. For example, the 10 million naira you want to invest in the business is meant to buy certain things. For example, you're into services. Let's take an example. You're into construction. You need tools. You need mixing machine and all of those kinds of things, and you want to be able to get off. You might not need cash to buy the mixing machine. You might find somebody who is selling mixing machine and say, if you bring this mixing machine on, you can get an equity share of so and so thing in my business. And instead of getting yourself put under the pressure of having to raise money to buy the mixing machine, you can have the mixing machine with that person only getting an equity contribution. You can also find other means of bringing other things into the system. So you can always sit back and watch yourself and look at how you can bring money into your business without having to borrow, because a lot of times borrowing is what brings the pressure. Borrowing is what brings issues. But if you have other means of bringing money into your business, it is better. That's the financial borrowing, which is in cash, is the financial type of capital. That's where we come to the next point, which is the relationship kind of capital. It is when you have good friends. I use the word good, because when selecting your relationship, you have to select good ones. It's when you have friends that you can call up and say, I need to get so and so thing done, and I need your assistance in so and so thing. You need to move goods from point A to point B. You have been asked to supply something. Instead of having to borrow money to hire a truck, you know somebody who has a truck, and the person is willing to let you have it if you can fuel it or get a driver for it. That's the way of cutting down your cost. You have used your relationship to get that thing achieved. It's different from having to go and look for money to hire a truck. You can also use relationship in other aspects. You can call on friends and relations and people around you, former classmates or somebody you know who is doing something. And that's why it's key to always ensure that you have good relationship with people, no matter who the person is. Keep in touch with the person. Yes, sometimes the person might not be able to do so well for you today in terms of providing resources for you, might not be rich or wealthy, but keep that relationship in place. Tomorrow, that same person might be able to help you connect somebody else who might be able to get those things done. Nobody can be ruled out. So keep that relationship in place. Keep that connection in place. And when I come back after a few more minutes of a short break, I'll look at the other three types of capital we can be looking at: the natural, the social, and the venture capital, which I call the debenture.
So my brother hustle, carry on my show. No condition lasts forever. Don't they come on?
my brother hustle, Jerry. So my sister won't. Things you know they go forever. Your own things go down forever.
The song say beans no they cook forever. Your own beans go down too. Anyway, we're talking about money matter. So sometimes it could fall in line when you have situations where it looks like you've been working forever for money and it's not coming through. Well, the song says passes a message across. Your own self go down. So whatever it is you're cooking, it will come through. So we're looking at we're talking on business and life, and we are looking at raising capital. It's still on Aloore Radio, which you can reach on Facebook at Aloore Radio, on YouTube at Aloore Radio, and on the internet on www.alooreradio.com. And we're transmitting from the GSM studio at the Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism, Oyo State Government Secretariat, Agodi, Ibadan. Now we back on the topic, raising capital. Our last discussion was on relationship, friends, relations, acquaintances. Now we move to natural capital. Now, what do we call natural capital? It's a capital that comes to you a lot of times naturally. Your skill is a capital. Your land is a capital. Your strength as a youth is a capital. There are a lot of things you can bring forward that might not cost you money. For example, you can sing, but you don't have money to go to the studio. Somebody else can drop the money and you drop your own part of the investment, which is your talent of singing. For example, you can develop websites, and you need to develop a financial technology app to help facilitate payment system. You're not likely to be able to raise all the money required to register with the CBN, or not likely to raise all the money required for you to register with other financial institutions to be able to get that pulled through. Somebody else can get that done. But when you look at the equity ratio, you have also invested something, which is your skill. You are into all manner of things. There are a lot of things you can be into. Somebody can have a vehicle and ask you to drive it. You are both investing in each other. And you can have a vehicle and somebody creates a cab hailing applications like the ones you find Uber, Bolt, and the rest of it, Africa, or whatever it is it's called these days. But you can, it's a form of equity investment in each other. I bring the vehicle, you come with your skill of driving, and we make revenue, and you take a ratio, I take a ratio. So it comes in different ways depending on what you have. Somebody wants to build an event center. He has the money to build the event center, but he's looking for a land. You have the land. Sometimes you don't have to sell. You can bring up the land as part of your investment, and the person brings the money to build the event center. In the end, it is co-owned by the both of you. You share the revenue. That is another form of investment and raising other issues. You have a plot of land that belongs to your father, ancestral generations, and somebody wants to build an estate, 100 building estate, and it needs land. And you can make provisions for the land, and then the person builds the estate, and you share revenue. So there are a lot of ways you can use your resources that you already have to bring on to play to be able to get involved in things, especially in business. So a lot of times it doesn't have to be money being put forward. A lot of times it doesn't have to. In politics, for example, you're a very popular person in your neighborhood, you're a very popular person in your area, your local government. You can come up with things. You can liaise with someone, like you have governors and deputy governor. You can go with somebody else who has the money to finance your election to become your deputy. It is all forms of coming together and raising capacity. So whichever way you look at it, whichever angle you look at it, is all part of raising capacity to be able to achieve what you plan to do. So when we're looking at capital, because human beings can also be capital, population, voting population is also capital. That is why some politicians come up and say, I have 11 million votes from this region, so I have to be the one to be the presidential flag bearer of my party. I only need advice from your end. Everything is part of capacity. It's your ability to look at it in whatever direction you choose to look at it that matters. So that is talking about social capital. For natural capital. Now we're looking at social capital. Social capital is when you achieve the purpose with your social status. You, like I mentioned earlier about politics, you're a popular person in your area. There are times you even get to the bank on the basis of you being known so well, on the basis that you're a very known person, you can get some leverages, you can get some considerations, and you can have people investing in your business just because you're popular. They feel that you cannot run away, or they think that you cannot run away. Social capital is also very key. There are people who get things done in this country without anything. You can even be in court and be charged, and the judge can set you free on self-recognition. It is part of the capital which you develop over a period of time. You have to consciously do these things, especially the social capital. You have to make friends with people who can get things done, so that tomorrow you need help, you can call on people and say, I need to do XYZ, and I don't have the capacity to do it in this time. That those people are likely to have such capacity to help you out on it. It's part of the social capital you build. You want to be able to have a transformer in your neighborhood. Your transformer is damaged, but you know somebody who is close by. Because of your relationship to the person, you can call on the person and say, we need a transformer in my neighborhood. Can you help us speak with the person in charge at this agency or this ministry to help us get it done? You leverage on those social status that you have acquired over time. It takes time, yes, but it's better started today than never. You can look at it, make friends with people, just like we talk of relationship capital. Make friends with people, develop strong relationship with people, and you can come to the point where you can walk up to people and ask for favors. A lot of times, you have people who borrow money, pay with interest. There are a lot who take money and don't drop a dime in interest, because they have developed the integrity that they always pay back, and they have good relationship with people. That's what matters the most. If you have good relationship with people, you are very likely to get things done. For example, there are people in your mosque, there are people in your church that see you every Sunday or twice a week or 3 times a week, depending on how many times you show up there to pray. And they get to the point where they get to know you. You can walk up to people and they look at that social status of you being a member of their congregation, of you being a member of their team, and consider you when you need to do things. So it's important you look in this direction and look at some of all these activities and see how you can build capacity from those ones. The fifth one, or the fifth one, yes, which is bonds, venture capitalist, debenture. I'll pick the venture capitals for example. In this country, by policy, companies are mandated to put out a percentage of their profit somewhere. A lot of time 1%, some 2%. I know some companies that have gone as far as 3% of what they make in profit aside to support smaller businesses, and many of these businesses are still doing it till date. How many small businesses have been able to key into these things? This is Nigeria. Let's be very realistic. A lot of times the few who are able to key into it are because they have some form of relationship with those inside those organizations. So why don't you play your game in the proper way and ensure that you develop relationship and social status with some of these organizations? Is the truth. Yes, in some more developed countries or climes, it will be done based on maybe a list that has to be followed, and when it's your turn you can be called upon. But this is Nigeria. Things are going to change over time, but we're talking about today. Align yourself with people, align yourself with organizations. If you are making supplies to an organization, for example, little basic supplies to that organization, it gets to a point they know you and they trust you. So if anything in those organizations show up, they will call on to you. So it's based on your integrity, based on your social status and relationship with these people, that you are able to get all of these things done. So it's important for the venture capitalists. Most companies do it till today. So locate some of those things. Sometimes you see them on the internet, even though right now in Nigeria you have a lot of scam and fraudulent activities and websites claiming to some people still get messages and text messages and emails of monies meant for COVID-19. Wanting. Nobody's promising you any COVID-19 money. But Nigerians have gone to the point of using every avenue to scam people. They ask you to call somebody to follow up. Sometimes they even call you. Some of them reel out your bank details, asking you to confirm certain things. Yes, Nigeria had gotten to the point where there are a lot of scammers all over the place, but you still have to be careful. In the midst of chaos, there'll still be what you need, and that's why you have to always perform your due diligence before you get into anything. You want to ask people questions. You can't operate on your own. No man is an island. You can ask people, walk up to people. If you are told that it's a government sponsored thing, walk into the government organization, the ministry, federal or state, Make inquiries from ministries involved. Ask questions. If it's a private company, go to the company or send an email to the company. Verify if it is true. Don't just jump at it because somebody sent you a link on WhatsApp. People clone websites. I've seen websites of banks that are cloned. And then you go there, they'll tell you, they'll send a link to you and then ask you to click to update your account status. And it appears completely like the bank's website itself. The only thing is tech guys like us who manage to notice it. If you go to the website, it's not going to be exactly the bank's website, www.thebank.com. It's going to be something completely different because you can't register 2 domains at the same time. So one domain is unique to that person. So once the bank has registered that domain, nobody else can register the domain. So that takes off the issue. But most time people are not careful enough or not patient enough to look through the website address to know that this is not coming from the bank, and then they enter their information and stuff and get scammed. Because a lot of time they ask you to enter your ATM details and for confirmation, and then your money is gone. But you need to be able to settle down. In the midst of those scams and all those frauds, there are still legal and legitimate means of getting grants in this country. There are grants for farmers, there are grants for tech guys, there are grants for hairdressers, there are grants for all manner of things. Make inquiries and find out. It's all over the place. Now we move to bonds, which is what states usually embark on. Bonds is when you, as a state, a government agency or anything, is able to raise money or finances without collateral. And those are what you have. States who sell bonds. They're selling loans. They're selling debts. That's what it means when you talk about selling bonds. But that's at the state level, the big boys level, debenture, the big boys level. But it's still good we talk about it because you're going to grow to the point where you begin to aspire to such levels, where you can take loans without any meaningful collateral, and they know that this is an established company, it will always pay back. Usually better because the interests are far, far less. Sometimes not with interest at all. Interests are far, far less, but in some cases they are almost insignificant, and you can get more money through those things. Those are the means you can raise capital. Those are the means you can raise, let me not use the word financing, you can raise capacity, because in different ways you can always raise financing. It doesn't have to be cash. You want to open up, you want to set up a school, for example. There are people who you can walk up to get certain educational materials for your school. Sometimes you pay them later, sometimes they even use it as part of their equity in your school system. I'm trying to pick up real life examples of things we have around us to be able to buttress this point. But whichever business venture you are going into, it is important that you look and see. But I'll always advise people, it is best to look at the easiest, cheapest means of raising financing. As a business, yes, sometimes you can have it tough. Banks are not likely to give you money if you're still a small business. So you might have to borrow from these money lenders who give you 5%, 10% interest for a start, yes. But if you are consistent, these same people will know and understand that you are no longer a risk, and they begin to reduce the interest. Because a lot of time the reason why the interest is that high is because it's a very high risky venture. Giving money to somebody that can disappear tomorrow, does not have a major physical office that you can walk up to tomorrow and say this is his house that I'm going to seize because he's owing me. So it's not easy. Even put yourself in the shoes of those giving the money. You look at the young man, all he has is passion. There is no physical collateral to hold on to, yet you want to give him money. That's why sometimes the interest is so high, so that whatever it is, whatever interest they get from some other people or from you, will make up for somebody who disappears with their money. But with time, if you're consistent and you're strong and you're diligent in your functionalities, your business will eventually grow and you get to the level where you can take monies from cheaper options. Now we have a shorter last break, after which we'll come back and come up with conclusions regarding this topic of raising capital.
Thought that I could love anybody the way that I love you so completely. Oh my baby, you are the formula. Oh, you give me joy, and nobody knows me more. Nobody knows me more than you, oh baby. 'Cause I love me wrong. No one can please me more. No one can please me more than you. If I don't get you, it's like the sun without the light. It's like the moon without the night. 'Cause I need you in my life. I want you so completely. Oh my baby, oh, you are the family, oh, you make me smile. Nobody loves you more, nobody loves you more than me, my baby, my baby. Who tell me wrong? No one, and no one completes you more, no one completes you more than me. If I don't get you, it's like the sun without the light. It's like the moon without the night. 'Cause I need you in my life. If I don't get you, it's like faith without belief. Like a heart without a beat. What's a heart without a beat? If I don't get you, it's like the sky without the stars. Oh, oh, I need you in my life. If I don't get you, it's not love if we're apart.
Very interesting song. So we'll round off on our discussion this morning. And what else am I to say? Small business, medium scale business, mega businesses. If you look at the government settings, their energy are on the small scale business. Why? Because they constitute about 85 to 90% of the GDP of Nigeria. The smaller businesses are what actually contributes to the growth of the economy, especially in Nigeria here. Those big organizations we see contribute not as much. The smaller businesses, which you selling wigs, selling cake, selling all those smaller things, contribute to a larger part of the GDP of the country. So do not give up. Yes, sometimes it could be very difficult to put things together. Sometimes it could be very difficult to raise money. Sometimes it could be very difficult to get the tools you need to get your work done. Yes, it's the same thing everywhere. Well, maybe not exactly everywhere. There are some situations or some systems or countries where they're encouraging you by allowing you to be able to do certain things on credit. For instance, in some countries, you can go to school on credit and pay back when you graduate and work, what they call this, the tuition loans. We don't have that in Nigeria, but our tuitions are manageable. But whatever situation it is, yes, there are things that are applicable in Nigeria that are not applicable elsewhere, and there are things that are applicable elsewhere that are not applicable in Nigeria. But we're looking at Nigerian scenario, for example. You are struggling as a small business person. Yes, it takes time for things to grow. It takes time for things to develop the capacity. You are not going to wake up one day and become like the big names we hear all over the place. You are not going to become a Dangote tomorrow. And I tell people a lot of times, the Dangote that you mentioned have been in business since 70s. Many of you were not even born. Now look at how long he had to run the business to arrive at where he is. So you're not likely to start off your business today and in 2-3 years want to become like him. Yes, there are exceptions, situations where people come outside, the likes of the Mark Zuckerberg, who come out and in 10 years will rise to where they are. But look at one Mark Zuckerberg out of like 100 million other people. It's an exception. So for regular businesses, yes, you grow things manually, organically. You have to grow from the day of 1,000 naira as a business person to 5,000 naira to 10,000 naira business capacity to 50,000 to 100,000 before you look at 500, 800, 1 million. It's not likely to come overnight except you are into fraud, 419. So whatever it is, even 419, I think they start by scamming 50,000, 20,000 before they begin to go into millions. Whatever it is, you have to grow. So have it in mind that you have to grow in whatever it is you're doing. If you have that mindset, it helps you a lot, because the mindset is the key thing. Once you have the mindset that yes, you have to grow in this business setting, you will begin to look at things a lot differently. Because a lot of time people come out of school, they look at a businessman who have been in business for 40 years and they want to be able to come out of school and the next year be at the level of that old man who have run business before you were born. No, it doesn't work that way. Well, the exceptions, like I always say, but you are not likely to be the exception in a lot of times. So allow yourself to grow. And even those who have been exceptions, who have gone out of the system to make it in a short period of time, they never even knew they were exceptions themselves. They put in the energy, they put in the work, hoping to grow, but the growth was faster. So we have looked at the several types of ways you can develop capacity so you can raise capital. And I'll recap the types of the things that you need to do to be able to develop this capacity. Always operate a good financial workflow, a good financial flow, basically, which is your bank or whatever financial institutions you have. There could be physical, online bank, whichever one it is. Just ensure that your flow of cash goes through your banks. Have integrity in the things you do. Let people trust you. Let people believe in you. Let people understand that if you say yes, your yes is yes. If you say no, your no is no. Let people get to the point where they trust your actions and they know that you always get through. And keep good relationship with people. Have good friends. I keep saying good before the friends. Yes. Even when the adage that says that 2 heads are better than one was eventually corrected that 2 good heads, because you can have 50 heads. If they are not good, they are not as good as 1 good head. So have good friends. Have friends you can rely on. Have friends you can call on to. Have friends you can walk into. Have friends you can bother. A friend of mine used to say, what are friends for if not to inconvenience each other? But that's the purpose of friendship. You knock my door today, I'll knock on your door tomorrow. That is how we balance each other up. Now, when you're able to meet up with all of these things, you will be able to fit into all the types of ways and routes to be able to raise capital, be it financial, relationship, natural, social, or venture capital. Whichever direction it is, whichever angle it is, you will be able to find yourself in. Well, I've been talking on Aloore Radio today, transmitting from the GSM studio at the Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism, Oyo State Government Secretariat, Agodi. And you can reach this on the internet, on Facebook at Aloore Radio, on YouTube at Aloore Radio, and on the internet www.aloreradio.com. I'll be done today on Business and Life series. I believe that next week someone else will be coming here to build on or to talk on some other topics linking to how to develop, grow, and expand your capacity as a business person or in real life scenario. Well, until then, I'll say cheers and see you some other time.
Another man bore you out, baby. Don't go chop another woman, no. I'm feeling for you, baby.